It's crazy because I feel like Pose definitely could have given us another season, but in my opinion, it's always better to end it on a high note than to drag it out. You know what I mean? I don't know, especially because Ryan Murphy on it. No shade, no shade.
What you do with it? Give me your wig. Give me your wig. Give me your wig. Give me your wig. 'Cause it seems
so I'm gonna just talk about this like off the top of my head. So hopefully it does not. Hopefully it's not as crazy as my live streams be, because I be hopping from one subject to the other. It's just a mess. It's a mess. But this entire episode, and like I always say, I don't think I've ever watched Pose on the day that it actually comes out, because it usually be at night. You know what I mean? It's just, emotions already be high at night. I'm just like, girl, I'm gonna be in here, boo-hoo. It's just, like, I'm not gonna do it. So I usually watch like the day after, but I don't know. It's ended, the show has ended, but it has had such, I feel like, a strong impact on just how society is dealing with gays and LGBT people in general. I think it has had such a huge impact. I would like to see like actual members of the ballroom scene talk about Pose and talk about what they think of it as well, because I feel like I kind of have a limited perspective because I am not a huge part of the ballroom scene. So I would love to see somebody talk about the show from their perspective. But I'm trying to think of like where to even start. I guess we could start at the beginning. This episode really talked about the disparities in the healthcare system. It's crazy. It's crazy because I be seeing like signs of protests that happened 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years in the past. And it's just like, we talking about the same shit. We talking about the same shit. We talking about the same shit. We fighting for the same shit. You know, niggas need help in the fucking community, bitch. Y'all, the whole medical community ignoring us. What the fuck is going on? Like, bitch, my friends are fucking dying. Like what the fuck? What do we need to do for y'all to take us serious? Like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years in the past, the protest signs look the same, bitch. But yeah, you know, Blanca was walking around. I forget this white boy name. I don't know his name, but basically he was really suffering with, you know, HIV, AIDS. It was really affecting his body. And of course, at that time, the medication, the shit was just basically in trials. It wasn't really readily available for the people who needed it. And they were really being weird with the trials. You know, Blanca saw him one day, he was really struggling. And the next time she saw him, he was like, all right, he was doing better. And he ended up telling her like, yeah, I got into this trial thing, they let us in, girl. And Blanca was just like, what you mean? Because we already came from Pray Tell, you know, just basically accepting that he was going to pass away. And just, you know, he did not have access to the same shit. And so Blanca was like, bitch, we finna get Pray Tell on this shit. We finna get Pray Tell in these trials, ho. We finna get Pray Tell in these trials. And that's exactly what they did, right? But they had to do it by threatening their boss. Like, okay, there are 8, I forget the number, but I think it was like around 80 or something people given the opportunity to just put in the trials. They were put in the trials, and out of those 80 people, only 2 of them or something like that were people of color, were black people or something like that. And it was just like, we finna go to the news, it's not gonna take us long to get all these bitches up here, because one thing about us, we know how to get our ass up and fight for some shit. So she was just like, it's not gonna take long. It's not gonna take long. So they ended up getting Pray Tell into the program, and also because her boyfriend fought for it, he was like, I want Blanca to be a part of it too. And Blanca don't know how to take it, because I feel like she's extremely selfless. So she was just like, I'm not that sick right now, I'm not that sick. You know, someone else can have it. But like, I think people like that need a constant reminder, which is why I'm glad she's dating that man. Need a constant reminder to be like, you matter as well, you know? Like, it is okay to give of yourself, and it is, of course, human to wonder, like, should someone else be prioritized or whatever, but like, you do matter as well, especially if you are the one who's gonna be helping other people as well. You know what I mean? Like, it was just a lot, so they both got on it. Let me tell you something. It's just in the middle of the episode when they were twirling around, they were singing that song, and Miss Blanca came out there, and she was swinging that hair, bitch. She was moving that whole run. And Poppy had the sprinklers, bitch. You know what the fuck I'm talking about, ho. Poppy had the sprinklers above and they was dancing, bitch. I say, yes, God, bitch. But I'm sorry, Miss Mamas. But of course, Pray Tell and Blanca look so amazing. But when Blanca did that little dip and she was whipping around in that fucking, in the It just gave me so much life. Now with this finale, before I move on, I will say that I expected, maybe because like, maybe based off of the writing, the other characters' arcs kind of finished. So I will, sit my ass down on that one, especially since I can only imagine how difficult it is to write these scripts and shit like that, especially if you think you're getting more seasons and you gotta wrap it up, right? So I was personally expecting just to see a little bit more of all the characters that I love. I just want to see what's going on with Angel and Poppy, but like I said, we kind of addressed it. I want to see what's going on with Elektra, like what's going on, but I'm glad that they were all around each other throughout especially at the protest. I was like, yeah, bitch, let them know, let them be heard. At the end, it was just wild to me. It was wild to me. So after they twirled around, after they did all that shit, it's just, wow, I'm thinking about it now. Like Pray Tell was smiling and shit. He took off his makeup, and when he went home after the ball, took off his makeup, smiled in the mirror and shit. It was almost like he knew that shit was about to happen, Spoiler alert. I feel like he just felt it, or I don't know, but he had the time of his life. He did the ball, and then he laid his ass down to rest, like he laid his ass down to sleep. Now, Ricky, as they had already kind of been mending what was going on, so Ricky's coming over like, oh yeah, girl, what's the tea? Like, hey, Pray Tell, mama, like. And years ago, I found someone not like that, but not in that, but they were in a worse position. I don't even want to go into detail. Like, I'm still recovering from that shit. So he was like my best friend. So seeing that play over, which is why I tell y'all, like, Pose be bringing up so much shit. Like, Pose be bringing up so much shit. I be like, I have to be ready to watch this shit, much less have a conversation about it. But to see Ricky go through all of that it was heart-wrenching, and it was just as surprising as when something like that, when my friend took his life, it was just like, it was that surprising, and it happened in that same way almost, where it's like he had the time of his life right before he decided that it was over, right? He had we went out to a club, we was dancing, bitch. I was like, oh, bitch, he getting better, everything is fine, and it was done. So for that to happen like that, it seems like it would be unrealistic, but it's not. It's not, especially when you consider what Pray Tell was doing, and when you consider what that kind of disease does to the body. His body was already struggling with it, while they were trying to figure out what's going on with his meds. And then on top of that, Ricky puts 2 and 2 together while they're over there at the table. He puts 2 and 2 together, and he's like, oh my gosh, I thought that, Pray Tell was swiping meds, to give me some, because Ricky was already diagnosed, and he puts 2 and 2 together and realizes, no, Pray Tell was actually giving me his meds, and it took what's-her-face to tell him, like, there is absolutely no way. You talking about trials too? There is absolutely no way that he's just getting extra drugs from the doctor. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. And she's already right, but for it to be like these trial drugs that they're trying to see if it works in the fucking first place, and it's probably limited to something, it's just like, they're definitely not gonna give you none of that shit. So that's when he put it together. It was like, wow, Pray Tell was giving me his drugs. And it was interesting because it made me think about earlier in the episode when he hugged him, and he was like, well, Pray Tell hugged Ricky, and he was like, I got you. Because Ricky, had a moment of vulnerability and said, hey, this is what I'm going through. He opened his shirt and showed him, like, it's starting to affect me now, really. And Pray Tell was like, I got you. So hindsight is 2020, because it was kind of similar when I had an experience. I really understand that, because it's kind of similar when you think back over the person's life or the things that they said. Like, some of the shit adds up to what they're doing, but you only see it until after it's done. It's crazy. But it was a great episode. I don't know, I really wanted it to end on a happy note. I really wanted it to end on a happy note. I did not want it to be this lingering sense of death and sadness, but I mean, I don't know, maybe it's realistic. That's pretty realistic. After someone lives their life, not really a super duper sad ending, because, at the end of all of that, I remember saying how much Pray Tell annoyed the shit out of me. I remember making a whole video about that shit. But like, the bitter, it's bittersweet, but the sweetness comes from the fact that Pray Tell, like, basically sacrificed his fucking life for Ricky. So that was so great. It was so emotional, but I did still, at the end of the day, I still wanted it to go out on a party or something. And I guess we did, like before Pretel passed, but I did not expect the final scene to be like that. Either way, it was great. Y'all tied it up. Y'all tied up everything. The show will be, I think it'll be remembered. I feel like at the end of the day, this show is so iconic that it did the job that needed to be done. And I wonder what other forms of media like this that we'll get, partly because Pose opened up the doors for these kinds of stories to be told. And now we can get different perspectives within the community when we're talking about the future of media and shit like that. We can get maybe even rawer perspectives as well, but I think this kind of knocked down the door in a way that we probably won't really truly understand or comprehend or appreciate until like maybe 10 years down the line, and we can see the way that media has changed, probably partly because of the way this story is telling, especially trans stories. You know, what an episode. Like, what an episode. But if you watched it, please do not hesitate to let me know what you think. We could even talk, like I always say, you gotta put it in there. We can even talk about it on the podcast more if you want. The patrons are up right now letting me know what topics they want me to cover in the podcast episode. So yeah, just check it out. Let me know. Love y'all so much. And make sure that you have a good goddamn evening.